Hey there, I have a book to share with you today. It is called Balloons Over Broadway, and it is the true story of the puppeteer at the Macy's Parade. So, the Macy's Parade is the parade that comes on Thanksgiving Day, and you probably watch it with your family, or maybe you don't, but it's a really big parade in New York City. And so, this is the story of the man who created the puppets for the Macy's Parade. So excited to share this story with you. Balloons over Broadway. Every little movement has a meaning of its own. And here's a picture of Tony. His name is Tony Frederick Sarg. Anthony Tony Frederick Sarg. He was born in 1880. Okay, that was a long time ago, and he died in 1942. Okay, and that says, quote, every moment has a meaning of its own. Okay, here we go. From the time he was a little boy, Tony Sarg loved to figure out how to make things move. He once said he became a marionette man when he was only 6 years old. Okay, you can see the marionettes there, right? Those are the kind of puppets that use the wooden pieces up here and use the string to move their body parts. His father had asked him to feed their chickens at 6:30 in the morning every day. And Tony had an idea. What if he could feed the chickens without leaving his bed? That's something you guys might like to invent too, huh? He rigged up some pulleys and ran rope from the chicken coop door to his bedroom window. That night, he spread chicken feed outside the chicken coop door. And here's a little diagram right here. It says, number 1, spread feed the night before. Number 2, pull the rope. Number 3, the door opens. And number 4, the chickens come out. It's pretty smart, huh? And that was when he was very young, 6 years old. The next morning, Tony pulled on the rope and the door to the chicken coop opened. The chickens ate their breakfast. Tony stayed snug in his bed, and his dad, so impressed, never made Tony do another chore. Pretty smart, huh? When Tony grew up, he moved to London, where he discovered that no one was making marionettes for kids anymore. I'll be sure and see the pictures, okay? So out of wood, cloth, and strings, Tony began to make puppets. He figured out ways to make his marionettes' movements so lifelike that they performed as if they were real actors. Word spread about Tony's amazing marionettes. When Tony moved to New York City, the Tony Sarg marionettes began performing on Broadway. Okay, so there's a close-up picture of him with his marionettes. Okay, now Broadway is the big street in New York City where all the big plays are. You know, you can go see just about anything there. In the heart of New York City, in Herald Square, was the biggest store on earth, R.H. Macy's department store. Macy's had heard about Tony's puppets and asked him to design a puppet parade for the store's holiday windows. So Tony made new puppets based on storybook characters, then attached them to gears and pulleys to make them move. It's kind of like when he was feeding the chickens, right? I'll hold that so you can look at his puppet show in the window of a store. Pretty cool, huh? All right, here's another good picture of it. I want you to get a good look at it. Might recognize some of those characters, right? Probably wasn't holding that super good. Might want to pause it and look to see if you see any characters. You see, I see some Humpty Dumpty, but there's some other ones hidden in there. In Macy's Wondertown windows, Tony's mechanical marionettes danced across the stage as if by magic. All day long, they performed to shoppers jostling for a better look. But Macy's had an even bigger job for Tony. Many of the people working at Macy's were immigrants. And as the holidays approached, they missed their own holiday traditions of music and dancing in the streets. Now, an immigrant is someone who moves here from another country, so they miss their traditions from their country. Macy's agreed to put on a parade for their employees, and they hired Tony to help. Tony, too, was an immigrant, so he loved the idea of creating a parade based on street carnivals from all over the world. He made costumes and built horse-drawn floats, and Macy's even arranged to bring in bears, elephants, and camels from the Central Park Zoo. You can see his plans there. Okay, hold this back. I want you to see kind of the big view here, and then I'll just bring it up close so you can look at a few things. You might want to pause it if you want to look a little more carefully at the picture from the parade. Is that what it looks like on TV now? The animals joined hundreds of Macy's employees on Thanksgiving Day, 1924. That's almost 100 years ago, winding their way from Harlem to Herald Square. It was a dazzling parade. In fact, Macy's first parade was such a success that they decided to have one every year on Thanksgiving Day to celebrate America's own holiday. And the parade still is for the Macy's employees. They have a place to sit. Each year the parade grew, but when Macy's brought in lions and tigers, in addition to the bears, elephants, and camels, the animals roared and growled and frightened the children. It's kind of a scary parade, huh? Not really parade animals, are they? Tony, can you think of something spectacular? Macy's asked Tony to replace the animals, and he says, okay. So you know what Tony's thinking. Tony hoped to replace the animals with some kind of puppets. But his marionettes were less than 3 feet tall. He would have to make much larger puppets in order for them to be seen in the parade. And how could he make them strong enough to hold up in bad weather, yet light enough to move up and down the streets? Tony knew of a company in Ohio that made blimps. Have y'all seen a blimp before on TV? They made blimps out of rubber, the perfect material for any weather. When he called the company and showed them his sketches, they agreed to make what Tony wanted. Still, how would Tony make his big puppets move? Then Tony had an idea from an Indonesian ride puppet in his toy collection. Okay, so think about what you know about the balloons now in the Macy's parade and what you see here in this picture. The blimp, which is made out of rubber, and this ride puppet is held up by sticks. On Thanksgiving Day, Tony's creatures, some as high as 16 feet, spilled into the streets of the crowd, and the crowds cheered wildly. Okay, can you see that he's got his balloons and he's got people holding sticks? Now, still, is this what the Macy's parade looks like today? Nope, we're not there yet, are we? Part puppet, part balloon, the air-filled rubber bags wobble down the avenues propped up by wooden sticks. Now the balloons are much higher. But now the sidewalks were so packed with people that only those in the first few rows could really see the parade. Tony realized his puppets would have to be even bigger and higher off the ground. And though the sticks helped to steer the puppets, they were stiff and heavy. Tony wanted his balloons to articulate, to move and gesture, more like puppets. But how? Let you see that up-close picture of the parade. See these people in the back? They can't see. So, with the marionette, the controls are above the puppet, and the puppet hangs down. All right, now look at this balloon here. What kind of idea is he getting? What's in that balloon? Do you know? But what if the controls were below and the puppet could rise up? Now we're getting closer, right? What makes a balloon rise up? If you didn't guess on the last page, maybe you know. During the next year, Tony set his new idea into motion. This time he asked the company in Ohio to make balloons out of rubberized silk, as strong as rubber but lighter than rubber alone. Most important, Tony ordered the balloons to be filled not just with air, but with helium too. When you get your balloons that stay up in the air, they're filled with helium. Since helium is lighter than air, it would make the balloons rise. Once the puppets were completed, they were deflated and shipped back to Tony in New York. I'll let you get a good look at that picture. It's too much to look at in these pictures. Tony did not know if everything would go as planned. And here's his thought bubbles. They say, will they fit under the L train? What if one hits a sharp object? What if the balloons are filled with too much helium? It's got the little clown flying up. It was still dark on Thanksgiving morning when Tony filled the balloons with helium, tethering them down with sandbags. By 1 p.m., the sidewalks were packed with people ready for the parade. Then, one by one, Tony cut the lines to the sandbags. Let's have a parade! That's what they say when they start the parade on Thanksgiving morning. Let's have a parade. Okay. So hold it back so you can see. And the magnificent upside-down marionettes rose up to the skies. Nodding and waving to the crowds below, they sailed past Central Park. They sailed down Broadway. They shimmied and swayed through the canyons of New York City. And when they say the canyons of New York City, it's not like the Grand Canyon because that's a rocky area, but the canyons of New York City are between those big buildings. High above the crowds, they flanced in the afternoon wind, pulling the rope handlers this way and that. Yet with every heave-ho, the balloons gestured and articulated like wild puppets, and the crowd screamed for more. After the balloons were eased under the L, they ended in front of Macy's at Tony's Wondertown windows. It was a parade the New Yorkers would never, ever forget. And from that day on, every Thanksgiving morning, crowds have lined up the sidewalks of New York City to see what new balloons would rise to the skies for Macy's famous parade. Tony Sawyer, the puppeteer who loved to figure out how to make things move, had set the stage with a little rigging for a puppet to be anything anyone imagined it to be. There's some notes in here in the back, so hope that I can see you sometime and share some of these things with you. Here's a newspaper article from the parade, and I have something extra special to share with you because about 24 years ago, when I was first in college, I was in the Macy's parade, and I brought my picture to show you guys. I was in the band in college, and our band was in the Macy's parade. So this is a picture of us in the parade, and I'm somewhere, I think I'm on here's the dancing girls, and here's the flag color guard girls, and then I'm about the third row back here. But you can see in the background behind us 2 big balloons. I don't know if you can see real good which ones they are. One is the Pink Panther, and right behind the Pink Panther is Betty Boop. And you can even see below the Pink Panther right here, you can see they always have the stars. So it's kind of really hard to see that there, but they have star balloons that are a little bit lower to the ground. So this is what it looks like when I was in the Macy's parade myself. Long time ago, right? But I just wanted to show you guys that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this story. And just remember that Tony, he made his first real invention when he was 6 years old. And that shaped his future as the puppeteer for the Macy's parade. So, you can just about do anything. So keep up the good work.